we're going to explore the importance of structured data that you enter into your environment probably on a daily basis. You may not even realize that you're doing it, but what is the importance of structured data and how does that impact the future of an organization? We're going to talk about that. And this paper is available for download. If you just stay through the video, I'm going to give a link in the video that will allow you to go to that link and download this file. So stay tuned and let's jump right into it. So the importance of structured data, and again, you're going to be able to download this content and read what I have written here. But really what we're going to do is focus in on these drawings here, and there's 3 of them in here. So the first drawing here talks to us, kind of shares the elements that make up structured data. So structured data is built upon a series of fields, data fields. And here I've just given the example of a date field. So inside of our minds, we can enter the date inside of a field on multiple different options, right? 02 February, 22, you see the 4 different options there. To us, they all may mean the same thing, but to a computer, they mean completely different things. So we have to be careful in the way we enter it. Now, the date field is a very simple example that we can all kind of wrap our hands around. The reality is, though, that date fields are usually very structured, right? You get a little pop down, you pick the date. And the reason for that is because it has to be consistent every single time. We don't want what we see here in number 1. So why is this so important? Again, you can download this. Stay tuned. There'll be a link here shortly. Why is this so important? Well, the 3 things, 2 of them are illustrated here, is search. So we need to be able to find information. If we're putting information in different ways every single time, it's going to be very difficult to find data. So I'll give you a great example. Personally, when I have notes that are important to me, for example, maybe from an email message, and I store those in some sort of structured data environment, a database somewhere, I usually put in the title of those notes EM2. Now, EM, Echo Mike, stands for email. And the numeric value of 2 means that it's something that's unique, right? If I just put EM in there, a search engine, number 1 here on the screen, would find a whole bunch of matches for EM. But EM with a numeric 2, now that's quite a bit more unique. And so what am I doing? I'm taking advantage of what the computer does naturally. Remember, a computer sees everything in 1s and 0s, and it can find data if we give it something consistent. And you can see other videos that I have done on this approach of unique identifiers, and I mention it here in this document as well. So critical to finding your information. It's all about finding the data, because when we get done with the data, we may forget about it for months, and then we need to get back to it. It's easy when you have those consistent, unique identifiers. So this also impacts our ability to do a data migration as well as data coexistence, because those other data structures illustrated here, number 2, A is our data structure, B is the other data structure. It's going to look for consistency within the environment. So let's go ahead and take a look at that here on this page, on this image. So here, as this example, and we'll continue with the date example here, number 1, upper left there, data source number 1. So data source number 1 is inconsistent. We saw that in the first drawing. Now, data source number 2 over on the right-hand side, number 2, the big red number 2, has a very defined data field, which is day, month, year. So when we enter in data into our environment, especially using data source number 2, we're always using the same format, day, month, year. When we enter it into data source number 1 over the years, that data, that date has been inconsistently entered into the system, as we explained right here. That inconsistency will drive this migration in the wrong direction. What we have to do to prepare for this, if this is a data migration, we have to go in and clean up the data source, number one, clean it up to put all the dates in the correct format. Then when we prepare the data for a migration, then that data slides in to the new data source. Now, I'm using date as an example because, again, it's something we can wrap our hands around easily. But this, I'm really talking about all types of data. All types of data. So it's very important that you have a consistent approach. And when it comes to technology being able to decipher inconsistencies, we feed the computer with the variables that it could possibly be. So in this example, we would feed the computer and say, hey, anything you see in a day, month, a day/month, a day/month, month/day/year, or a day, month as one continuous numeric value, any of those are going to equal the new format, which is day, month, year. So the problem with that model is, notice this is asking for a day, month, and a year, whereas this format, for example, this one, and this one, they all are only day and month. So the computer, in its automation, first of all, you have to program the computer and tell it to do these search variables, and we have to make it understand those things. It still won't know what the year is. So if you're being asked to migrate data from your organization or prepare that data for a migration to a new system, and you're out of whack here, right? You have this inconsistency in your data set, then you're going to have to clean this up, because the computer, first of all, will never be able to guess this last variable, which is the year, especially in these three examples. There's no year here. So you will have to kind of build that structure up inside of your original data source, right? Data source number one, before you even begin or attempt to do a second data source. Now, the reason for this video is to help organizations understand that moving to a consistent data source will absolutely bring benefits to the organization, certainly through search, data coexistence, and data migration efforts will certainly benefit from a consistent data structure environment. But you have to do the heavy lift. Unfortunately, these data sources, data source number one, tend to be the output from decades of inconsistencies feeding into a data source. You have to clean that up. You have to either clean it up or get rid of it. You can't just move it over into the new data source, or you will contaminate data source number two and drive all types of inconsistencies there, which is not what you want to do. So you got to swallow the pill, get it done over on data source number one. Then you'll have a successful migration, coexistence, and be able to enhance your search capabilities in both of those data sources.